Hello and welcome to the Futurist Letters Show, the show where we get older, where time creeps by, where the eventual call of nothingness seems to lurk. My
What?
name is Cairo Smith. I am the founder and editor-in-chief of Futurist Letters, the journal. I'm also the host of the Futurist Letters Show. Today I am without a co-host, no man or woman beside me. I am alone, as all men are ultimately alone, and I am very happy to be interviewing my friend, the writer, the enigma, Slater Henatay, a man who's gone by a few names. He's gone by Simpulacra. You may know him from Discord. You may know him from Substack. He has a new book coming out that I'm sure we'll get into. And for those who don't know him yet, I will allow him the well, I don't know if it's a pleasure, but I will press him into service, giving his own introduction. Slater, welcome to the show. Tell us who you are and what you do.
It's kicking. Thanks for having me, Cairo. I appreciate it. Yeah, no, if you know me from Discord, I do not apologize at all. You all deserve what you get. But beyond that, yeah, no, I write stuff on Substack. Attend the bar on occasion. My life's not all that interesting, but it's a good time nevertheless.
Okay, short and sweet. What do you write? Do you write fiction? Do you write nonfiction?
So yeah, I tend to write a little bit of both. Both nonfiction and fiction. Um, More fiction though. I started a Substack movement of one man, just me, called Anti-Erotica, and the idea was just basically to make erotica that I found interesting, because I don't like erotica, and that is my self-proclaimed claim to fame. Um, because
Anti-erotica.
yes,
Is anti-erotica erotica? Your description seems to imply it falls within.
yeah, no, so it's effectively what I was my my aim in naming it was effectively just to be, it was clickbait. It was just clickbait. Um
Okay.
but no, the idea was just to write erotica that I would want to read. So it's mostly funny, sometimes a little
Is
depressing.
it meant to be titillating?
I think it could be. I think the
Hmm.
most titillating work of anti-erotica that I wrote was a story called Stuffed, which was the perspective of a suitcase as it was being filled.
Oh, okay. This is getting even beyond. We just talked to Catherine D about otherkin and the idea of imagining yourself as an elf or an animal. This is almost getting into the eroticization of the inanimate.
Yeah, 100%. JG Ballard is my hero, so I just wanted to take it from the car's perspective, basically.
I've been meaning to get into Ballard, and I haven't yet. I have been realizing the influence that he's had on so many artists that I like in other parts of my life. Where do you recommend starting with Ballard?
So I read I think the first Ballard that I read was The Drowned World, and I really enjoyed that one. Um, and then I think I read the rest of that Apocalypse series. So there's one where everything turns crystal, and then there's another one that I don't remember what happens, but this is back in high school. And then I recently read Crash, and when I had already and at that point I had kind of forgotten about Gigi Ballard, but I enjoyed the hell out of that book. Um,
Crash that became the film, the Cronenberg film?
yes, that's
Okay.
exactly.
Have
Um,
you
I
seen the film?
I have seen snippets of it. I haven't watched the full thing.
Snippets. Okay.
Yeah,
Short form video, ladies and gentlemen.
yeah. I live my life through sound bites and movie snippets.
And does Ballard engage in, well, I guess a car is sort of sexualized
So
in Crash, right? Or the act of crashing. It's kind of like Titan, I guess, also sexualizes a car.
what is it? Titan?
Titan, the French film.
Oh, I don't
Some
think I know
body
it.
horror. I don't really go in for that stuff. It's a bit creepy to me.
I'm a fake film student, so I have no idea what you're
Fair.
talking about. But no,
Now, is this
it's
a Is this lucrative, this anti-erotica?
No, not at all. It's a total waste of my time. I love it. I love it. Okay, that's
So
not
so written
entirely.
for a higher purpose than
It's not
pecuniary
entirely
pursuit, I
true.
guess.
I did gather a little bit of a small following of people that are really cool who got into it, and I don't know.
I imagine Lisa Leibs is not one of your fans.
No, I don't think she knows who I am. I've written 2 responses to 2 of her
Despite your
articles.
best efforts?
Yes, yes, despite my best efforts.
Now, who
I
is this for those that might not know?
Lisa, how do you say it? Leibs?
I
Lives?
don't know. I said Leibs. It could be Libes.
I think it's Liza too. I'm gonna call her
Liza
Liza.
Libes.
I would like to respect her with by
It's
using
probably
her
Liza Libes.
lives. Okay. So she is I don't really know who she is. I've only seen those 2 articles from her, but I know that she does a little bit of she writes a little bit of fiction, but mostly what she writes is like writing about writing kind of stuff, which is fine. That's a lot of Substack, honestly.
Yeah.
Uh, and I think she's a little bit more on the popular side, but she wrote this article and I can't remember what it's called, but it's basically her talking about it's her talking about why she doesn't like erotica, but she's framing it as a moral issue or a
Hmm.
artistic issue. So her initial claim was something to the effect of sex scenes don't belong in serious literature because she doesn't like them. It's
Yeah,
effectively
I read it, and honestly, I don't think I could explain it any better than that. And I'm sorry, Liza, we do want to have Liza on the show, so maybe she could explain it. I promise, Liza, I will not be a hostile audience, but it does seem like she sort of hit, if you can sort of like dope the Substack algorithm, I mean, heterodox moral grandstanding, sex, and writing advice. She's
Mhm.
sort of going in on 3 for 3, right? Yeah, okay, so you responded to this.
No, yeah, and I responded to it, and that was kind of like it wasn't the basis of my starting to write really crummy, weird erotica, so much as it was just like I guess me defending what I was already doing in the first place, which is what she was doing too. So I don't know. But she did write a second article because I guess she with uh Republic letters of the Republic, whatever that Substack is called. Her and somebody else kind of debated it out a little bit. And the person she was debating, I didn't actually agree with at all. Like, cause I don't remember who it was, but her whole, um, perspective was that like, no, erotica is important because for ethical reasons. Like it is a more of a representational thing. And
Well,
I
this
don't,
is a civil war that's been happening in feminism since the 60s.
sure,
Is this sort of pro and anti-sex? Not to say, I'm sure Liza would not consider herself a feminist, but at the very least, she believes that women should be allowed to write and be read on the internet.
yeah,
So, in a way,
yeah.
she's participating. Yeah.
That's sort of like I mean the thing that's always used in feminist arguments, which I do agree with, is that like and I'm going to use the word privilege, and I need everybody to forgive me for using it. But
We can
there,
have like a little soundboard that plays like a wah wah.
please, no, but there is like a baseline privilege that sort of. Oh, thank you. That's what we need, or a depending
Okay,
on
go ahead.
on whatever side of this argument. But there's sort of a baseline privilege that all women have in the 21st century, specifically in non-third world countries, um, which is it's kind of like the 5 day 40-hour work week thing. You take unions for granted, you take the suffragettes for granted, or whatever. But that is commonly used as sort of an argument for. I'm getting so off track. I think I was just responding to one thing that you said, so we don't have to
Well,
go.
I asked you to explain the context of the Liza Live sex thing. Okay, I
Yeah,
do want to wrap it back around, reach back around to your work, as it were. So,
that's all I've ever wanted from you, Kara. So back to my thing. Yeah, yeah, I responded to Liza twice and I agreed with her second article more. But I still think that her framing of it was incorrect because it still ultimately came down to like it was something that she didn't like.
do
And
you
that's all.
think that we are all? reenacting high school or college, trying to almost do this sort of like therapy play on Substack of like, there's no professor, but we're all just still acting like we're in lab, and there's the cliques and the weird guys and the
Well, okay. I think you're probably right. And I think the biggest problem with that is that there's not a professor to slap us all into shape. You know what I mean?
yeah.
Like we're all just like making these grand claims and positing all this.
It is kind of a Lord of the Flies in that way, yeah.
It is. It is. I haven't seen it sink into violence yet, which is good. but but yeah, no, there is but I think that's also something that's that problem specifically is indicative of a broader cultural problem because democratization of all art forms, I think, should have been a net positive. But I think in general, it's sort of led to the marketers running everything. You know what I mean? Like marketing has always been important. I'm not going to pretend that it hasn't been. But like taste has been sacrificed in the pursuit of virality and sales. So
You end up kind of overfitting to the metrics, and you get a Goodhart's law type situation where what you were trying to measure with the metric is no longer really valid once you start overfitting to the measure. Yeah.
absolutely, absolutely. Um, yeah. Anyway, that wasn't necessarily the point of what we were talking about.
No,
But
I sort of threw in that high school thing and the democratization. It's funny, you made me realize something here, so I'll ramble for a second. It's people talk about access, equitable access, and whatever. Um, I I almost feel like people are more comfortable with what they call democratization when it is a little zero sum because it maintains the prestige and this certain sort of um like rarity that grants the arts some poignance. Like say for example, oh, we have like 600 slots at the academy. We're gonna reserve 100 this year for low income students. Okay, great. Or even like we're gonna add 100 slots for low income students. Great. But when you get something that actually like lowers the barrier to an art like to the floor, like to the
mhm.
point where literally anyone can do it, and you have like a whatever video slot machine or like, all of a sudden it's like it's not just low income kids that can make this art. It's like scammers at a content mill in like Bangladesh can make this art. Like I think there's almost too much equity at a certain point and people get scared because the everything gets drowned in access, you
No,
know?
I agree with that, and that's a scary thing to say if somebody took what you were saying out of context. Um, that art
I
could be.
love to say scary things that would sound really bad out of context on this show. I do. They are also bad in context, they're just more confusing.
It's confusing, so it has a layer of padding on it, so that
That's
you
right.
can't out.
It's like the sort of the Straussian like you hope that 80% of people will just get bored trying to figure out what you're saying and not cancel you. Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of what I do in general when I write an essay. Um,
Yeah, I know. I know. I love your essays. I do. Um, we might have one of yours out by the time this comes out. So if you're listening to this, go check out I don't know, we don't know what we're gonna end up calling it, but it's about Sean Carroll and Disney, and it's very interesting. Slater is a very astute, unique voice. So do check out his writing.
yeah,
Going
I
back
don't-
to your writing, you don't just write anti-erotica.
no. That's a small
What
subset.
else do you write?
I tend to write a lot of horror, um, if you can call it that. It's more or less just kind of they're more or less eerie stories. So I kind of think of a lot of the horror stories I write as campfire stories. But beyond that, I would say more than anything, I'm a weird fiction writer. So kind of in the same vein as like Samantha Schweblin and Jeff Vandermeer and the guy China Melville. China, is that how you say his name? I don't. The guy
I'm
who
not
wrote
sure.
Woman City. I've only read it, so I don't know. But excuse me. Um, that's I think mostly the style that I prefer to write in. So like even with the anti-erotica stuff, a lot
Yeah.
of it has kind of bent. Um,
Yeah,
just
you
because,
should I think we have your work in both of the published print editions of Futurist Letters
that
that are
is
out. I think you might be one of the only people um to be in both. So that's a
shit.
testament to how much we like your stuff. Oh yeah, please do go if you're listening, pick up our print editions on Amazon. They're not very much and they someone called them art objects. They look good on your desk. You'll look cool and cultured, and they have cool weird stories from people like Slater in them too. So do check
And
that out.
Camille Paglia or Paglia or whatever her name is would be stoked to hear that books are becoming art objects again. At least at least futurist
Well,
letter.
I think if nobody can read, what else do you do with a book, right? You sort of just keep it on your shelf. I don't know. Um, I can read. I think that's where it all went wrong for me.
Mm.
My mom taught me to read, and it's
See,
just
I'm
been
lucky.
downhill since there.
I'm totally illiterate, so
That's good. See, that's
I'm
much better.
I am literally the monkey banging on the keyboard.
Well, now I guess we know what we would get from that. Okay. So I'm leading you here, but I know you have a book coming out. Tell us
Yeah.
about that.
So the book is called Becoming. It's out with Mischievous Muse Press, which is a small press from Torrance, if I remember correctly. But yeah, basically,
I know that you know, but I have to ask for the audience. You know, there's already a book called Becoming.
well, yes, I am not Michelle Obama. I get that a lot.
Hmm.
Um, but no, it's not me. I'm not Michelle Obama. Mine will be less inspiring, I imagine. Um, at least maybe that was my intent. No, but becoming is becoming is about an entity in a well in a small town in a coastal Oregon town, um, and it messes with people's heads as it tries to come into being. So
I
that's
mean, yeah,
the
I would buy a whole season of that. Sure, greenlight it. Sounds good.
yeah, it's
Have you lived in Oregon ever?
no, no. But I have traveled up to or I've driven up to Oregon twice, and it was
Hmm.
actually the town was inspired by it wasn't even a town. It was like it was a gas station and like a fishing place and a
Yeah.
dock down
I
like a long.
think I was it off the five. I think I might know the one you're
Yes,
talking about.
it is exactly
Yeah,
that.
I've stopped there.
And there's like a couple suburbs, or there's like a suburb, a 3 mile drive inland. But yeah, that was basically the whole inspiration. And yes, it is off the five if I remember correctly. And
I think this is a safe place. Not really, because it'll be public on the internet forever. But in Oregon, up until a couple of years ago, Oregon was one of the only states, maybe, or I think Oregon and New Jersey, where you don't pump your own gas.
yeah,
Um, you stay in your car and they come and they pump it for you. And this was a law. Um, and I would road trip up there quite frequently, and just in the purest, most validating of all their stereotypes, California douchebag moment. I'm pretty sure I almost drove away with the gas pump still in my car. Uh, because I was so unused to them coming and doing it for me,
yeah,
and I zoned out, and I just figured, oh, I must have already put it back. But luckily, I did not burn down the gas station.
that's a
But
plus.
I think that might have been literally at the pump that you're talking about. So
Think
small
yeah,
world.
yeah. I mean the California or I call it the California coast, the West Coast.
Hmm.
The West Coast is kind of like it's a little bit of a rite of passage. If you live on the West Coast, you kind of have to run at least a section of it. It's
You
like
do.
running Route 56.
Hmm. And it's a fun drive. It's a good drive. It's fun to you either get where you're going, or if you run out of time and you just pull into a random town to sleep, that's its own adventure.
Yes.
Um I do. I recommend it just as long as everybody, stays safe on the roads.
A
Yeah,
good
you're
one.
speaking of, you're something of a hobby wheels and motors guy,
I
aren't
am,
you?
yes.
Yeah, tell me about that.
So I grew up in auto repair. And the cool thing about that was, I mean, I think it taught me how to use my hands, I guess, for things other than jerking off. And uh, I don't know. I guess that's it. That's all you do when you're an adolescent. Um, and it taught me a lot of mechanical skill and stuff too, which, but also there's a pleasure in just being able to. It's like doing a puzzle, I imagine, because it's effectively the same thing. Being able to diagnose your vehicle when it's messed up or whatever. There's a really great pleasure in it, and I actually have I finally my 1950 Ford, which was my daily driver for like 5 years. I had to put it in storage for a little while, just because life was doing that to me, and I finally just got it back, and so I've got to do a crank pulley on it. I've got a U drive shaft leak. I've got to do U joints on it, but yeah, there's just great pleasure in it, and yeah, I own too many vehicles, according to Jules. May I bring up Jules?
Um,
I'm
sure.
kidding. I'm kidding. No, I love Jules. He was a a good foil for a while. Um,
Oh, our jewels. Okay.
yeah. No,
Yeah, 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 yeah.
I meant the
So
disc.
this gets into your other life as a sort of ne'er-do-well of the internet. Yeah.
Truly. Um, and I
And
think
I
that's
feel bad because you weren't nearly this online before you and I started collaborating. So I feel like in a way I've sucked you into this.
yeah. No, you're definitely to blame for part of it. No, I'm kidding. I mostly I never really went onto forums and things like that unless it was like parts forums for car stuff. But yeah, no, I will say you invited. So I'd been on Discord before. I think I was on there's like the Nick Land Discord, and then there was another Discord that I was really stoked on called the Red Library. They had a really cool podcast that just goes through like a bunch of like the old school leftist books and some of the newer ones as well. Um, I was kind of obsessed with them for a really long time. And it's a shame that they stopped podcasting. But yeah, no, your Discord your Discord kind of brought me back to sections of the internet in high school that I intentionally avoided. And I have to say thank you for that because it's been actually it's been a good time. So
Yeah, I think we have a nice little synthesis on the Futurist Letters Discord. Um, Nathan, our dearly departed former host, did describe. I think he described the sort of Red Scare ecosystem as like a former 4chan kid retirement home. I think that's a little reductive, and we also have our fair share of less online or differently online people
mm,
in the futurist Discord. But yeah, it's a fun time. I mean, it's just I will say this, writing and reading can be so lonely, especially when there's not like a mass reading culture, unless you're reading, I guess, like Sally Rooney. You're really going to be hard pressed to like read a book and then find people in your life to talk about it with.
yes,
So it's like, I don't know. It's almost like when something does fade into esotericism, the internet can be a way to like let the people keeping the light like find each other, you know? Do you find that?
I agree with you wholeheartedly, and I just want to clarify. It sounds like I've been razzing the Discord this whole time. I'm not. I love that place. I love the people that I've met on there.
No, you're a productive member of the Discord.
Um, I appreciate you saying that, but that's a low standard. No, but I genuinely enjoy the Discord, and I enjoy the people that I've met on there. And yeah, there's honestly, it's some of the most interesting conversations. And like you said, writing is very, very lonely. And it's one of those things that, like, not to be the guy who brings up Stephen King, but I like Stephen King. Um, One of the things that he says is that, like, as writers, we also kind of want to be solitary, and there's a degree of that
Mhm.
that's very, very true. Um, but I think the best little tidbit of advice that he gives to any writer is that you can't be. And so like things like the Discord and honestly things like Substack too, in general, I think are really good for getting people like us who would maybe rather not be remarkably sociable. It allows us to be sociable a little bit.
Yeah, I call this my I joke sometimes this show is my forced networking. Um, just at least once a week to get me out and talking to a human being.
Yes.
There's this binary people paint, partially as clickbait, but I think they really believe it, where it's like you're either doing brain rot stuff like social media, or you are engaging in like deep creating and consuming like books or writing or whatever. But there's sort of a third category, which is social media that is in service to the higher arts, almost like a hobbyist community around the arts. So maybe it's not so different from you being on like parts forums or stuff years ago, the Discord and the Substack, like it all supports the literature. That's why we're there.
I agree. No, I agree with that wholeheartedly. And honestly, um, I I've never been the social media bad guy. Like, well, I've been the social media bad guy. I've never been the social media is bad guy. Um, for me, because I remember Facebook, um, was was the first social media I was ever on, and I remember having a lot of really cool conversations with a lot of really interesting people about a lot of odd things, specifically politics. Um, luckily, not too much of my experience on Facebook shaped my politics. Um, but yeah, no, I feel like there's a period of time where all of this is really good, like, or really good for some people, and then just kind of really bad for everybody else. I don't really know, and it might not even be really bad for everybody else. That might just be how we're framing it because we don't like it. I don't know, but although I did, on that note, your article about the uh what is it, the years of lead,
Yeah.
I thought on Instagram, I thought that was a really interesting take because you weren't specifically blaming social media, but more or less our code of conduct on the internet.
Yeah,
Which,
and that can, I think, sometimes be my I don't know. I'm fully aware that I'm like a what do you call it?
are you a luddite?
No, not at all. No, not at all. I'm concerned with decorum.
Mm-hmm.
I find myself drawn to, and which is funny because I can definitely be snide. I can definitely be, maybe it's just how my mother raised me, but um I get worried when the real viciousness starts to come out. And it's one thing when it's a crazy person on the internet. But I think what struck me there and why I wrote that is that I was starting to see posts from people I know, quote, normal people, unquote, that started to sound a lot like what I had been hearing from crazy people. And it's like, oh, is it like trickling out? And that's a little bit like what Scene Bucks is about my novel is like you can't log off because there's too much internet in real life now.
Yeah, yeah. No, that was like, so I'm not done with it yet. I am the
All
world's
right.
slowest reader, but that was one of the things that I've been very much enjoying about it. Is like at first I was like, is he sort of like cataloging meme culture and through a book? And then I realized that no, you were it was that sort of infection, that idea of like a mimetic infection, except it's the whole internet
Yeah.
that um, and Cairo, I do agree with you. Like decorum is important. Like my kind of rule on the internet is I will have a conversation with anybody as seriously as I can until the person talking to me isn't taking themselves seriously enough to hear what they're saying, and then I think the gloves off at that point. But but I think where I would disagree with you on the essay partly is that I don't think, how do I put this? I don't think for most people, saying the crazy people thing really has anything to do with what they actually think or believe or desire. I think it has more to do with what they think they're supposed to, or how they think they're supposed to present themselves relative to an event or an idea or something like that, if that makes sense. So, like, I think it's more of a cognitive dissonance than an actual, like, thing that sinks fundamentally into you. But I would say,
Like if someone is saying in 2004 that they support the invasion of Iraq, they don't personally enjoy the bombing of tens of thousands of Iraqi children. It's more just that they're trying to go along to get along within their social group.
I think not exactly that. I think more or
Mm.
less, well, yeah, I mean, obviously I would presume that somebody's somebody at that point who maybe wasn't as educated about it, because I remember 2001 happening. There was sort of a universal consensus, except for a few people, that, like, yeah, we should go bomb the Middle East or whatever. Like, that was just the sort of pared down, um
Yeah.
I guess, the pared down idea of what was actually happening. Um, yeah, I think that had less to do with, yeah, the enjoyment of bombing children in other countries, which I can't think that any sane person actually supports on its own, obviously. No. um, but yeah, I think ultimately, to respond to your question, um, I don't want to say it was all about optics back in 2004, even necessarily. I
Well, no, it
do.
sounds like I was off the mark with this. So I'd like to hear what you actually meant about responding to the essay, because clearly I
No, no,
got
no.
the wrong impression. When you say people don't really know what they're saying, or what did you say exactly?
So yeah, I think it's a lot of they don't really know what they're saying, but I also think it's partly like the internet has kind of cultivated a secondary language that I think people who are on the internet do understand to an extent. Like, when someone says, we should assassinate the president, they really don't. They're not going to do it. Most likely. Um, and usually their sphere of people are not going to do that. And realistically, if we're to see something like that occur, which I guess we have, um, or I guess we've seen the sort of suggestion of it when Trump got his ear shot or whatever, I don't think that those people are going to really realistically buck up and start the revolution. Do you know what I mean? Does that make sense?
I don't know. I guess if you wanted to be like a dweeb, you could try and confirm or deny that with data science. Like
I,
obviously there's been a a discourse shift. You could probably look. I mean, here's the thing. What is the baseline number of assassination attempts? What was the number the past 10 years? Is it going up? Can you track it? Here's the thing. Even if nobody's getting shot any more than 20 years ago, that could just be because as the attempts go up, the three letters are also getting commensurately better at stopping them or
yeah,
tracking people's posting. So
I,
in a way, it's only like some analyst at the NSA who actually knows whether this hyperbolic internet language does or doesn't lead to violence. We can only see like the shadows on the cave wall. We can't see what's actually going on.
no, no, I agree with that wholeheartedly. And so I'm just speculating, but it doesn't seem to. I guess I'm speculating, and worse, using anecdotal evidence. Just that in real life, I don't know these people, and
Well, that's good. That's
that's
certainly reassuring.
yeah.
If you look at what people post online, like I did, and go, oh, the sky is falling, like I did, certainly it's better to just go touch grass and talk to some regular people and, you
I
know,
I do agree with that, and so and I guess to kind of go back to where I do agree with you is,
yeah.
so I would say that the internet is kind of its own language. I think a lot of people say things that they don't necessarily believe. Um, on that note, I do think there are people who don't understand that it's sort of a secondary form of speaking. It's sort of speaking out of the side of your mouth, though all of the internet for the most part. And I think those people are the hyper literal ones who are the problem. And
This reminds me back in the first days of Trump when everyone was trying to do this postmortem on the election. New York Times was like sending people to Appalachia to ask them why they voted for Trump. The maxim was take him seriously but not literally. And this sounds a little like what you're saying about the internet. In a way, Trump is like the first internet native president. I mean, he really is, like, in the way that like JFK was, the first television president. I think I said this on another episode, so sorry guys, but it's like there's this Trump, as I was saying to Catherine D, internet native quality to him. So maybe him speaking in these absurd ways, I don't know. I just, you know what it is, Slater? I can't help but suspect that these hyperbolic things like lock her up, you know, shoot the president, they do. You just mentioned Nick Land a little bit ago. I think that these are hyperstatizing reality. They might just be on a delay. I mean, that's my fear. Maybe that's the great fear that I'm going to see if plays out or not over the course of the 21st century. How much do these hyperbolic, ultra violent platitudes hyperstatize the real thing? I don't know. I guess we'll see.
no, I think, and honestly, I think that's a good point too. So I think the other thing that I would amend the initial claim with, because I guess it sounds like I'm saying, don't even worry about it. That's not exactly what I'm saying. I am saying I don't think the hyperstition is happening right now. That's all I'm saying.
Okay.
I do think it's not good. I think it's bad. I still agree with that. But I agree with that being bad because I think that yeah, like you said, that language can sort of become the reality. It can become the reality. It can become the Mad Max future, which, like, to be fair, I would kind of love. But
I think that if we were to be doing like critical analysis of the Mad Max future, we would probably point to like resource scarcity and not like mean tweets as like
sure,
the
sure.
source of their civilizational breakdown.
There could be a meme resource or a meme based. Well, there already is technically a meme based economy if you think about it. But we
Yeah.
we could.
Hey, I mean, Twitter pays people to tweet. I don't know.
That's true. I mean, and people on Substack get paid to.
That's true. I like, maybe that's the through line with like the social media that I use. I like the ones that give you money.
Hey,
Uh,
I'm with you.
um,
I wish they would give me money.
so I'm curious, and we've got to get you the bucks here. So everybody buy Becoming when it comes out. Tell me about your publisher. You said it's a publisher in Torrance.
Yeah, Mr.
That's very close to where you and I both grew up.
Yeah. No, she the lady who or there's two ladies who run it. They've got quite a few authors on uh as, along with them. I met them through the auto shop that I worked at that my pops ran as a kid. So they were our customers. And then I
Oh,
remember as a
really?
yeah,
These
when I was
publishers came into your auto shop,
yeah.
and how did this conversation come around to you having a manuscript?
So when I was very, very young, I used to just send them short stories. Like I annoyed them is what I did.
Ah, when you were a kid.
Yes.
It's
So like
good. We have to take advantage of that young pluck before it
yes.
becomes too desperate.
Yeah, no, true. It is true. I I have to be careful how I present myself nowadays. No, but back in the day, back when I think I think the first short story I sent them, no, it was a short story collection. None of them are any good. I have reworked every single one of them into a story that I have now, which is pretty cool. Except for one. Um, and yeah, I sent them all of my short stories. It was like 50 pages. It wouldn't even have a spine on it. And they very graciously rejected me. But then they started a program for like young authors or something like that, and I just never
Okay.
wrote anything that was long enough. They did keep asking me to submit. So I mean, there is a degree to which, like, all networking has an inkling of contains an inkling of nepotism. which is what I've constantly been like worried about to a degree. Um, because there was a part of me when I was a kid, I was like, are they just interested in this because we work on her car, like, because I didn't, obviously
I don't
when
know, man. You know how easy it would be to blow off the son of the guy who works on your car,
right,
if you didn't
right.
like his manuscript. You can't overthink these things.
No,
Because if you overthink it, then the only people who are going to take advantage of it are the psychopaths, and then you only have psychopaths in the industry.
that's yeah, that's a pretty good analysis. Yeah, I'll
So
try.
this doesn't alarm me. I've also read your work, and I know it's good.
I appreciate that. No, but eventually, and I think it was around 2016, I just approached them with a pitch. I was an adult at that point. I was I was a couple years out of college or something. Or no, it's my last year. I don't know. But yeah, I approached them with a manuscript or with an idea for a manuscript, and they were like, "Sounds interesting, but you got to write it." And I said, "Okay," and spent the next 2 years writing it. Moved to Massachusetts, finished it there, and then mailed it to them. And I think they brought me on in 2021, technically. So, so it's
What do
been
you
in the
mean
works.
brought you on
Oh, I signed a contract
for
um,
that manuscript?
for that manuscript. Yeah, same one. And
And is that becoming, or you are publishing again with it?
no,
It
no,
is okay.
that's becoming. It's just
So
been
it's
a
been many years in the works.
well, frankly, that's completely my fault. So I handed them a first draft. I'm very grateful for my brother, and and my folks as well, because they're always very supportive of the things that I wanted to do. They would try to put me in classes if I seemed interested in something, if they could afford it at the time. But I forgot what I was saying. Uh,
Well, I was asking about I well I suppose you were trying to say why it took so long to get the company
oh,
on.
yeah, and I'm gonna take a long time saying why. Um, no, but ultimately, it was just as I kept learning things about writing. My father and my brother. My mother was passed at that point. But my father and my brother both loved the first draft, and I was gonna run with it. And then as they started the edit, I just reread it real quick, and I was like, "There's no way that anyone can ever see this book. This is a travesty." And
Oh,
they
so
were.
your own abilities, your taste got better in the process of working on it, and you said, "Okay, I have to
I hope it.
basically start again with my new abilities."
Otherwise, I should have run with that first one. No, I think it did. I think my tastes did improve because, to be frank, I haven't. I'm still catching up on fiction that people read in high school. Like I read all the high school fiction, yeah, but I was never a fiction guy. None of it really. Like I said, I was a Stephen King fan. The first fiction book that I can remember reading, and I know it's not the first fiction book that I ever read, was Christine by Stephen King. And it was like it was the coolest book on the planet because it was about an old Plymouth that runs people over. So stupid, but I loved it. Um, so that was the bulk of the fiction that I read. But I didn't really read a lot beyond the stuff that was required to read in school. And so I kind of, when I realized I wanted to actually do this seriously, um, I started cranking out more short stories and I started reading more fiction because I'd read a lot of. I still mostly read nonfiction. That's more interesting to me most of the time. Um, every now and again, I find a book that grabs me, but especially from the mainstream or not the from the big five publishers. There's really it's true. There's not a lot that's being cranked out in contemporary fiction from those guys. That's really all that pleasant.
No, I think, and I sound so smug saying this, but I really do try to keep my finger on the pulse of what's going on with the big five.
Yeah, yeah.
I'd say for every 3 or 4 indie books I read, I go and I pick up something with a million copies sold, and sometimes I'm surprised, pleasantly, in like a pop way. I read Tomorrow and Tomorrow and Tomorrow
I
by Gabrielle Zevin. Um, I liked it. I mean, I don't know what to say about it, but I enjoyed it. But there are some you read that are top of the charts, and I just get so confused. And I think the only way I get unconfused is to come back to our corner. meaning Substack, Litstack, the Discord. I mean, I just know what I'm doing there, and when people say something is good, I read it and I get why they would say that. And when people say something is bad, generally I read it and I get why they would say that. Um, I feel like that's a space I can operate in. So it's like it's very reassuring to find that kind of community a little bit. Do you there's so many boring questions to ask, like culture war nonsense, and
Make up
this
some.
is what I want to ask. This is what I want to ask. You write weird fiction. Um, would you consider yourself a weird guy?
No, no. I I I I feel like of the people that I know, I'm probably the least weird. Um,
Really?
um, that's not entirely true. Upon a second thought, no, I don't think myself a weird guy.
Okay.
But I don't know like how I would categorize myself because that's a little bit of a hard question. Um,
Yeah, it does. At a certain point, you just need to stop trying to type yourself and just live, I think. But
sure. I think I'm
speaking of living, I guess, what occupies you outside of writing? How do you spend your time?
I mean, like the rest of us, I've got a day job. Uh, um, yeah, I've got a day job. Um, right now, again, I'm trying to fix my car, but my my wife and I have been designing a couple board games. So I'm
Board
not.
games.
Yeah, I don't. So I guess this is the thing. It's kind of like stepping into writing without having read anything ever, which is exactly what I did with that technically. Um, I I'm trying to figure out. Well, no, I'm not trying to figure out anything. I'm just trying to make a couple cool board games, and not even necessarily to sell, just something to whip out at a party to force people to do. So the first one that my wife and I created was a board game called Don't Shit Your Pants, and it's like it's a single person um, playing in like you're like in an office or whatever, and you have there's two potential toilets you could reach. You've got five rolls to make it to the toilet, but each you have to stop and acquire like either a key or you have to use like 25 cents or you can buy like a Pepto Bismol to keep it down.
To
um
get more time? Okay.
yeah, yeah. And it's just it's a drinking game, it's a party game. There's no like greater message
So
or
one person is playing. How do you do this as a group? You all just drive the person together?
pass it around. No, you pass it around. So like one person
Okay.
and the big thing that it takes about 30 seconds to play around. that's that's why it's
30 seconds to play around.
yeah, exactly.
Okay.
And
Um,
yeah, and the big fun is if you don't shit your or if you shit your pants because you don't make it to a toilet, you get to yell, "I shit my pants," and take a shot. That's it. And so it doesn't sound like I'm a great game designer, but I've got a couple other ones that we're working on right now that are actually in this corner right here that are pretty cool. But that occupies my time. I do a lot of reading. I do some woodworking as well. So yeah, just
where does a board game go once you finish it? I mean, I know a few people in the board game business, but they're on the very mercenary side of it. So in your eyes, where does a board game go?
it depends. I mean, if I think I have a like, I don't know that I would ever like try to publish "Don't Shit Your Pants." Like, there are places where you can independently publish them. Like, you can go on Kickstarter or whatever and order from those prototype companies that will basically just crank out a million of them for small cost. If I were to attempt to make money on any of these, I'd probably go the mercenary route. But
And
yeah, I know.
how do you think you would decide when is time to really run with one?
So I would have to like want to do that in the first place. So for the um for the game Don't Shoot Your Pants, it's more just like a fun thing to whip out at parties. I don't know if it's something that everybody would have fun playing,
Just
but
bespoke, literally just for your friends, a party trick. Okay.
yeah,
There's
it's
a
like learning.
beautiful sort of decadence in this. I don't know.
No, there is no.
To make a one of one board game. Yeah.
It's
I,
not.
I almost can feel the envy, the interest of people in the audience now going, I want to play Don't Shit Your Pants. Hey, send me the
Yes.
rules. Let me print out my copy.
If you would like to pay me, it's 50. How much are they charging for board games these days? Like $70 with.
$50 to $80, yeah, or more.
And I get it. Like, and so I'm not gonna bemoan that at all. I profit is not a bad word. Even though I would consider myself like maybe like the most conservative leftist that exists. I would also say that in the current state, profit's not necessarily a bad word. But uh, yeah, no, I don't play board games because they're expensive. That's I just don't want to spend money on them. So yeah, I'm trying to figure out how to do it without playing any board games, and it's quite a blast. But yeah, no, if somebody wants to pay me 650 to $80 for don't shit your pants, I'll probably not.
There you go, folks. There you go. Yeah, this could be hot stuff.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, there probably is, if you think about it, you think about people who are probably good, mediocre to good artists who are just obsessed with promoting their work. Um, I think an unkind person could even fit me and the Futurist Letters project into that. But there's people with a certain drive to get their stuff out there. But at the same time, there's also this big sort of like shadow contingent of people who make good to amazing art who have absolutely no desire to get into the rat race to get it out there. And I mean, back in the day, you'd almost have these people seeking things like that out, but it's like there's so much noise now. I imagine there's a lot of good stuff just being left on the table because the creator is not this rabid marketer.
And you were in your interview with your publisher for Scene Bucks. You'd made a
Yeah.
really good point about just like don't let your script die on the shelf. Um,
Yeah.
and I think a lot of people are kind of approaching that. It's just like it was actually so I don't consider myself a rabid marketer of my or a promoter of my own work. Um, I will to an extent. And I will for becoming, because becoming isn't just my product, it's something that needs to make money for somebody else as well, and I do believe in being a good employee. But I I think it was my friend. Do you know? Yeah, I'm not going to say her name, but I had a friend from high school who was a theater person, who eventually she moved to the East Coast to pursue it professionally, and she just wasn't getting jobs. She wasn't getting the jobs that she wanted. And as far as I'm concerned, she's one of the better theater actresses that I've ever encountered. Um, and especially growing up partly in youth theater, partly in community and professional. Um, so the fact that she wasn't getting jobs was kind of appalling to me. And she kind of had to have this moment where she was just like, I just need to do this because I love it, because that's originally why I started doing it. And she doesn't make any money doing it, but or at least I think last time I talked to her, which was a few years ago, she wasn't making any money doing it, but she grew to love the craft again. And I know that it's a little bit, it seems obvious in retrospect, but I haven't had that. I haven't had that with writing yet. I haven't had that moment where I'm like, I need to do this because I love it, because I like it. Sorry, I love it either way. Um, but I also, theater was kind of so yeah, I guess that's one thing I should probably say about myself. I was a theater person for a while. Um, and theater was kind of that thing where everybody, or my brother actually cornered me about this. He was like, "Oh, I know, I know you love getting your work out there or whatever, because in theater um, you were the guy who enjoyed meeting the audience or whatever afterwards." And I had to kind of tell him just like, no, I literally did theater for me. I went out to the audience or afterwards because people wanted me to, or because it was expected of you. And and writing is kind of the opposite. I'm simply not doing it for me. I need someone to read the fucking story. So
Well, maybe that will push you in a symbiotic direction for the rest of your life. I don't know. I mean, that's
I hope
a
so.
lot of people think of that. It is funny the relationship with the reader that we create in our heads.
Mhm.
as we write. I think there was a time when I was writing for my loved ones because they were the people who would read anything just out of kindness. And I was lucky enough that they were very skilled writers in their own right. So writing for my loved ones, I was still pushed to be good. But I do think I hit a point where it was like, okay, we need to move beyond that. I actually think Scene Bucks was the first one. Scene Bucks was the first thing where I asked my mom, and she was very surprised. I said, yeah, probably don't read this one. She said, what? I said, yeah, I just wrote it to make some specific guys on the internet laugh. I didn't really write it for you. I'm sorry. Everything else I've written for you. But I do think that you must one way or another consider your audience
Yes,
in your writing because I don't you can go insane thinking about it this way, but art does serve a social function, you know? There's room for art even in a completely pragmatic world because art is sort of like a control schema for human brains, you know?
absolutely.
So it's like you're putting out like code to run other people's brains
Yes.
when you write and release something.
Yeah, no,
You're having an effect on them. Is this
it's
something that you think about as far as like what your work will do to people?
so it's originally what Becoming was about, actually. It was but,
Really?
yeah, it's not what it ended up being about, so I'm gonna just kinda skate right past that. But, yes, I do. I think it is, a really clever and creative form of mind control because if we are our emotions first and then everything else that we celebrate about humanity, like rationality or whatever, art comes second. Art is at least the most effective tool to cause somebody to feel something that they weren't feeling a moment prior. Other than telling um an angry person to calm down. Those are maybe the two art and that are maybe the two
Okay.
powerful tools.
And sex and drugs being somewhere third and fourth down there. Well, we don't need to get too
Well,
specific on the ranking, but art is up there for sure.
I think so. You brought up the question of sex, and now I have to, I guess, maybe address the fact that yeah, that probably is actually the most powerful. Like,
Huh.
if you think about the human being from the way that Dick Dorkins does as a as a um, what is it, survival machine or something like gene machine? I don't know, or whatever he calls it in that book. Then yeah, sex is probably the most powerful. I don't know. I think there's a few assessments that like humans are gene machines and like what's the other one? Oh, and that we're economic creatures. I think those are both fundamentally wrong because we don't if we're economic creatures, we don't behave that way at all anymore. I think that might have been a good assessment, but I think it's something that needs that has kind of been laid out to dry. Same thing with us being gene machines. I think Dick Dawkins' final chapter in The Selfish Gene about memes was maybe more correct, where we're kind of losing our genetic drive and becoming more cyborgish. That's not exactly what he said, but that's how I'm interpreting it and expounding on it.
I read there was an interesting essay. One of our guests we had recently on the show, who's a population researcher, Lyman Stone. He does a lot of statistical analysis of human genomes, and he had an essay that he wrote. Basically, what was he doing? He started out taking umbrage specifically with people who who breastfeed for a really long time because it's what the pre-civilizational hominid used to do, like for 2, 3, 4 years, which is true. They did seem to breastfeed for a very long time. But what he said is that, look, yes, you see this genetic pressure toward more milk production in women. And of course, he's being very clinical about all this. In hominids, basically up until in Western Europeans, and then also in like dairy farming Africans, the creation of cow dairy farming. And then from that point on, you actually see a pressure against extended breastfeeding. And his thesis was basically, okay, um, breastfeeding is really hard on a woman's body. It takes a lot out of her. So if you have the option to give your child cow milk and your child has the genes to be able to drink cow milk, it's actually advantageous for you to run out of human milk at
Mhm.
the age where they can switch to cow and get on with your life. And his bigger point was he was saying to these people, don't try to live like pre-modern man, because we have already received evolutionary pressure such that we are not genetically pre-modern men. We have already evolved to be symbiotic with cows and technology and chew bread.
My,
Not, you know what I mean? So this
my,
ties in with what your Dick Dawkins is saying.
yeah. Well, no, and yeah, I do see that. Yeah, I see that.
So where does the art fit in?
Huh?
Where does the art fit in? Where does your art fit in?
Oh yeah, I guess that was specifically the question you were asking. About specifically how that, you know, I guess if I'm to reinterpret your question, I would probably I I would ask, are you asking like if I'm worried about it having any of it having any sort of a, because we've had a little bit.
Yeah, I guess so. Yeah.
So I would say yes,
Or more than worried, do you feel a sense of responsibility?
100%. Um, but so I guess this is where I'm going to lean into my personal cognitive dissonances a little bit. I don't think that I am responsible. Like, so if I wrote, so let's just keep bringing up Stephen King. Stephen King wrote a book called Rage, which is about a school shooter, that supposedly inspired somebody to go do something like that. And I think they took it off the shelves. I think you can still find copies of it or whatever. Um, but one of the things that I thought was really interesting was that he felt responsible. Um, and to an extent, I do feel responsible to some of the more worrying things that I write. Like I've got a story out right now called Annihilator that I don't know is, I think it's a good story. I think it's a fun read. Um and I think it, it's, I think it's a good story. Um but I don't know that it's the responsible story to release, even if I don't necessarily believe that I would be responsible if somebody read my story and then did something similar to what happened in my book or said they were inspired by it or anything like that. Because um, I think literally I am a writer is not responsible for what someone does with their words. I think you can, because that goes back to communication in general. So when you're communicating, you're always trying to make a person understand something that they don't, or think similarly. You're trying to make someone think similarly to you. That's effectively the aim of communication, if I'm to put it kind of grossly. Um, but I think that maybe that goes back to the conversation that I was that we were having about um, you know, kids on the internet saying crazy, insane people things. Um, I think that the language in a book like Annihilator or a book like Rage or yeah, any of those books, um, I think the language isn't meant. I think it's a misunderstanding. That's all. I think when someone takes a violent work or something that has something horrible happening in it and then tries to recreate it, like Kubrick with Clockwork Orange,
Mm-hmm.
there were a few roving gangs of really dumb boys who were trying to recreate the ultra violence thing. And I would say that is a communication error. That's just a breakdown in someone's ability to understand what they're interacting with, more or less.
Right. So there's a distinction between, dep I guess it's such a glib thing to say depiction and endorsement, but basically, if an artist is saying, "Look at this horrible thing," and somebody latches onto that as, "I should go do that," they are not receiving the or they are not acting as a result of the communication that was intended by the artist,
Yes.
right? They're creating their own meaning.
Hmm. Yeah, I know.
And I guess it's funny if you think about the death of the author and you think about psychosis and what the reader brings, it's almost in that sense impossible to draw a through line um between the work because a psychotic person could watch Teletubbies and think that Tinky Winky is telling them to kill the president.
Sure.
You know,
I've thought that before.
sure, and that's certainly you can't hold uh Tinky Winky as responsible. But the thing is, it's easy to say this. It's easy to say that because you have this lumpy, messy randomizer that is inserted between the art and the recipient, you can't possibly predict the outcome. And yet, sometimes maybe you can. I don't know. I mean,
I think it's more about it's not so much predicting the outcome. Like if the wrong person were to read Annihilator and then do something horrible, um, I I would have to accept the risk of that being more possible than in that situation than me putting out Teletubbies. You know what I
yeah,
mean?
exactly.
There's still risk. I just don't know if that risk um becomes responsibility. I feel
I
like it.
actually don't know if I have a really good working definition for responsibility. So,
Good point.
maybe, maybe I'm ill prepared to get into this because
I'm deferring to not having a good definition of responsibility. Therefore, I do not claim it.
there you go. There you go. There you go. With no working linguistic model of the word responsibility comes no responsibility.
Hell yeah, baby.
Hell yeah, brother. All right, good. Open and shut. What's the next one?
Yeah.
Okay. So, you write um I guess you write about a lot of characters experiencing a lot of negative valence.
True.
What draws you to this?
Um, I don't know.
The muse?
No, I don't. I don't
Okay.
have a good answer. I can try to figure it out right now. It's probably gonna.
Yeah, I mean, I think it's worth getting into. I ask as someone who's also been accused of this.
Yeah.
Someone recently, I try not to read my reviews, but someone went and read every Amazon review of all my work and they said, Cairo, people like your writing, but they say that it also psychologically disturbs them. And kind of like you with this responsibility thing, I initially felt bad and then I thought, well, it's not my fault.
Yeah. Well,
Maybe it is. Yeah. So why? Why write this stuff?
one of the things my brother has said to me before on reading my stuff is he'll like point out a character and he'll be like, "That person's creepy" or "That person's messed up" or whatever. And pretty much every time he has done that, I've been like, "Oh, well, I just thought that was just like a person." So it might just be my model of how I think about people. I don't know. I'm not a pessimist, but maybe. Well, I should say I don't think of myself as a pessimist, but perhaps perhaps there's a psychologist who would like to.
I don't
Inter-
know. I think if I were to steel man it for you,
what was that?
I think I can think of two ways to steel man this for you. So let me come in for you here. One, I would say the average person does so much minimization of negative emotions in their effort to not go insane that even if you're just looking at the human condition objectively, you can come off as a pessimist. just because you are not sort of wrapping your work in a life affirming narratives. Two, conflict is the heart of story. You've studied drama, you know this. And inherent in conflict is negative emotion. So
I'm I,
there
I'm
you go.
I'm gonna go with the second one because the first one,
Okay.
I am not by any stretch of the imagination, um, like I, I am not a realist. I'm not even close to a realist because I don't know what that is. It's like responsibility. I don't have a working definition of it.
It's kind of a way to, it's a bit masturbatory, isn't it? Because you're basically saying, I have a more accurate world picture than you.
Yes, 100% believe that. And that frustrates that that is why I'm choosing to avoid that steel man altogether. But yeah, no, I would say it probably realistically it's probably just, well, I mean, a part of it is too is like a private emotion can sometimes feel like a global or a big surreal problem. So there was a period of time when I was in a really really bad way, after my mother passed away, and uh, I I thought I was going insane, and I probably did, and this is just probably the outcome. This is what a normal crazy person looks like. But I thought I was losing my mind, and um, recently this year, I kind of like tried to look back and rehash on some of those some of what that felt like, because it did also feel like something that like went away at a point. It was like, oh no, I had like a like I couldn't even call it like a psychotic break. Like it was like a stress induced state of not being very good, and not being super stoked effectively. So I wrote this story called Schizolalia, and the idea was sort of it was effectively me just putting my it was a retrospective on emotions I'd felt many years prior, when I thought I was losing my mind, for roughly 4 days, and I just kind of took that and turned it into it being about something else. So I'm more or less made it about how, well, I read it and for yourself and determine what it's about. But if I was trying to reassess my writing of this, um, it was more or less about how I don't think that clear information is coming from media. So I mean, when it comes down to from any form of media, uh, or any form of information sharing about global, or um, local, maybe local occurrences, not so much, but any information about global um, events is
Right.
more or less something designed to make a person feel like they're losing their mind. Um, but yeah, so all of that was effectively coming back to the initial question that you asked, which was,
Oh, negative valence in the writing
oh,
and all of that.
so yeah, back, I guess, back to that initial question. Um, for me personally, I think when I have a bad time, when I'm having a rough time, when I'm not so stoked, um, I think it's easier to, and literally, and there's something kind of schizophrenic about it that I acknowledge. It's taking this sensation and turning it into something broader. Um, that I think in somebody else would probably be paranoid schizophrenia, but to me, it's just writing a story. So yeah, it's taking a rough feeling and blowing it up. That's all. I think. I don't know.
That makes sense to me. Uh, yeah, it is this interesting. There's a tension where the audience, not the whole audience, but certain, I would say, vulture-esque parts of the audience really want to see your guts on the page. Even in the fiction, they want to read it and sort of whisper, oh.
Yeah,
He
yeah, yeah.
wrote that because he was going through that.
Yes.
You know, they get titillated by the biographical reading and the scandal or the darkness of it all. And we as authors get this tension then because on one hand, we do write to be seen, to have ourselves bared naked for the world and be loved as who we are. Because the only way we can be loved for who we are is to show people who we are and then have them love us anyway. At the same time, it doesn't feel good to be an attraction,
Yes.
sort of a misery carnival piece.
It and it
Which is why then sometimes if the wound is too raw, we write elliptically, you know? We take the real pain, but we make it about a fictional circumstance. You know, we add one layer. It's like, I don't know, do you think about striking that balance, the autofiction and the fiction?
so yes, I actually I'm pretty confident saying that like other than maybe that one story that I mentioned, the schizolalia, um, I don't think I I think I reduced the spectacle pretty well. Mostly because a lot of the time in the stories that I write, there's things that just you could not even approach happening in any sort of tangible, consistent reality. Um,
Well, that doesn't stop people from reading into Bret Easton Ellis or anyone like that. I mean, yeah.
of course, so as I what I mean by that is I feel like I distance myself from the spectacle to even if people do want to read into it, if they uncover some truth from it about me personally, I unless they're the best psychoanalyst in the world, I feel like it's pretty, I feel like it's pretty walled up, pretty well, I think, but I don't
Is
know.
that how you want it?
Not necessarily. I think it's just what I do. Like I don't think there's like yeah, I think of myself pretty much as an open book. Like I'm perfectly happy telling you about anything I'm feeling at any point in time. Um so I'm not trying to hide anything. That's I just don't think more or less I don't think my problems are that interesting. I think some sort of weird ballooning of a problem is more interesting. Like Sticky Situation, the one that you published.
Yeah. So this is, I want to say for anyone listening who wants to read this stuff, my essay I forgot to say earlier was called IG Girls for Years of Lead. That was the one about the reaction to the Charlie Kirk shooting. And that's on Futurist Letters. You can also read Sticky Situation by Slater himself on Futurist Letters. Just go and search it. It's also in our print edition. I think it's in the second one or first one. I don't
It's
know.
in the second one. It's in the second one. It's in
Second one.
Halcyon, Halcyon, Halcyonics.
Halcyonics.
Um,
Okay. Sticky Situation. Go ahead.
like
Now
okay,
that everyone's paused to go read it.
right. And hopefully now that you've made it back at this point, um, there is like the problem in Sticky Situation is kind of like universal, even if it is personal. Um, you know, to whatever extent, the issue of like, you know, how do you look at a relationship as something other than, you know, organisms kind of collapsing into each other and creating problems for each other, um, and also good things. um, yeah. So yeah, I don't know. There's just that's my mo. And again, it's not. I don't feel like I'm trying to hide anything. I just it's just how I write.
Yeah. No, I think Sticky Situation, for me, it, speaking of characters from our Discord, there's a guy, Frater, who
Yeah.
is, probably the biggest graphomaniac I have ever met, specifically a poetic graphomaniac. I mean, just relentless.
Yes.
Um, Very good guy, very giving with his time too. If you want, he might not be as helpful with free verse, but if you're doing any kind of formal or neo-formal poetry, um, and you want advice, I recommend coming to our Discord and talking to Frater. But my point with this is he was talking about something called a double meter, which was just insane to me. It kind of blew my mind. where he was basically saying, okay, I wanted to write this character so that on one hand, their dialogue works as iambic pentameter, but if you read it a different way, it also works as dactylic meter with spondy substitution. Like he literally is writing it so it's valid in both meters, which to me is just kind of insane and no one's gonna notice. But as I said, graphomaniac. But the point is you did this thing with Sticky Situation, which is so cool, where there's obviously the layer of the college drama, which you rendered in this way that is human and relatable. There is the layer of the end of time and this sort of fear of the end of space time and this sort of searching for purpose and da 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 da, right? Which also thematically relates to being in college, which is often where you get exposed to these big ideas. But then there's a third layer, which is sort of like your thematic double meter, where that fear also works as a metaphor for the relationship, the collapsing, and you know all this, so I'm just glazing you right now, but I think it's worth saying for the audience. It's so impressive, and the thing is, like, I guess here's a question: did you sit down before you wrote a single word and said, "I'm gonna write something that works on these three levels"? Like, was it formal or was it emergent?
No, it's nothing I've ever done is formal. If you find any higher meaning in it, it's all you. It's not me.
I don't know. I think it could be
So
coming.
I
It could be coming from the muse through you.
I am joking. Uh, Ironically though, I will say Sticky Situation was one that I didn't spend a lot of time with. Um,
Ain't that just the way?
it is just the way, man. And then honestly, I was really happy. So a lot of the stuff that I spend a lot of time with doesn't nobody particularly cares for it, which I'm okay with. I'm super okay with. Um, I spent a lot of time. The most validating thing that I think I've I've felt writing, for a while is when you selected "Mommy Is Not Mommy" for for that
Oh yeah,
competition.
you won.
Yeah, that was.
And the names were blinded to our judges, by the way. So in case there's doubt, you are just a good author.
I was actually worried about that too. I remember when you messaged me, I was like, "Nah, it's just there's no way." But I again, very very validating, because that was one of the ones that I did spend a lot of time with. And I wasn't trying to do the double meter thing. I don't think I can do that consciously. Um,
Sure.
but
And that one, that's also, I'm really yapping here, but this is something else I want to say is that, like, when you are writing, I know you said you write weird fiction. Um, as authors, we have to balance the familiar with the experimental. That doesn't always mean an even split. It can be almost all familiar or it can be almost all experimental. But it's like, you know how kind of like a piece of classical music has highs and lows. And you can't be at full bombast for an entire hour and a half. You have to come down a bit. Similarly, you need to sort of fall into familiarity. And I thought one thing that was really good here for Glaze number two, one thing that's really good about um, Mommy Is Not Mommy, was that you had this very out there world building with people interfacing into trees and all kind of like batshit stuff. And you balanced it like a good cocktail um, with basically procedural noir, which is about one of the most well-trod genres of storytelling of the past 150 years,
mm,
right?
yeah,
And I thought that was a good balance because it's like when we hit a noir procedural element, we can breathe a little. We know what's coming. We know the format. We know what a partner is. We know what a detective is. And that gives us the stamina to go back in and really pump on this experimental stuff. So I thought that was really well done as well. And I'm saying this partially because anyone listening, I hope that you read these stories, or at the very least take some of this to heart, um, when you submit to us,
Hell yeah.
because we want good stories.
No, and that's yeah. No, I greatly appreciate that. I I feel like I just took a shower, so thank you.
Yeah, I mean, I can try and I don't know. I don't have any grief to give you besides you need to finish these edits I sent you.
yeah, yeah, I do. Ah, you get me
But
hot.
it's okay. This is see you're doing this for me right now, so you have the perfect excuse to not be working on
That's
that
right.
essay.
Yeah, I took the day off to do this, and I can't do anything else before or after. So
There you go. That's the sort of there's pre-meeting, there's post-meeting.
that's right.
I had to break that habit a little bit. That was me at one point, but and by the way, to anyone watching, there's no eclipse or anything. I didn't I sort of forgot that the sun like moves in the fall and winter. So we will have a more controlled lighting environment next time, but for now you just have me sort of being vandalized by Apollo here.
To be fair, it moves the rest of the seasons too.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, yeah.
No, but it's
It's just usually high enough in summer that if it's above my house, it's not intruding into my office. Yeah.
no, it looks good.
I'm sure some like turbo autist could figure out where I live from the sun position.
They did that with the "He Will Not Divide Us" flag. You
Dude,
remember
talk about deep internet lore. That was so funny.
that?
Do you want to recap that for our Gen X audience that
Okay,
probably wasn't online?
so Gen X audience. So gosh, I think it
We love
was
you guys, by the way.
around 2016. Shia LaBeouf put together like an art thing called "He Will Not Divide Us," where he was basically just going around spaces and trying to get people to bemoan Trump and such. A noble effort, I suppose. Um, but he did it all wrong. So like he'd set up like cameras for people to say things and like live streams, and then everything just kept getting thwarted by internet trolls, by very very effective internet trolls, and
Trying to
eventually
find he was pointing a camera at a flag, right? Was what he was doing?
that was what it ended up as. So it
Okay.
ended up as him. He pointed a camera at a flag in like the middle of nowhere, and these the these terminally online folk who I have nothing but respect for found the location of the flag by the flight patterns. And then they took that one down, and then the I think the second or the third iteration of it, it was just a white wall. I don't even know if the flag was on it. I think it was just a live stream of a white wall or something like that. It might have had the flag. No, it did have the flag. Um, and they found the location of the flag again, and by monitoring the sun crossing it effectively, how the sun crossed it, and noise from the outdoors.
Oh
And
yeah,
I
wasn't someone driving around blasting noise or something when
yes,
they were within a few blocks of it?
yes, exactly. Yeah, they did some echolocation there.
You know,
And
one must imagine he was having fun. He was having fun getting caught. I mean, it's a certain point you're just creating an ARG for people, you know? You're
that,
creating an immersive experience where they're trying to get this flag.
that's exactly what
Um,
I thought. It was a whole ARG thing. I thought it was really really clever, and I don't know. Or I mean, sorry, I didn't think what he was doing was necessarily all that clever, but I thought though the way that people were figuring it out was incredibly
yeah,
clever. And I think they ended up when they figured out what apartment it was, they sent like a million pizzas to it because they weren't nobody was going to break in and break the law. They just kept
right.
sending pizzas to the apartment.
Do you think here's a question. I don't know if it's widespread enough. With all this sort of internet hardening, do you think the pizza companies have created some like anti-abuse pizza database where like their servers can flag if a house is getting pizza rated, you know?
I
Because
don't.
like if one house gets like a Papa John's, a Domino's, you know, da 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 da, within the span of a few minutes, that could trip something. But they would need to have like the Five Eyes of pizza. They would need like deep data sharing, deep dish data sharing.
The United Pizza, uh,
Yeah.
or the or the Pizza Union. Um, I think that would only be a terrible idea because you'd be losing out on so much profit from people just trying to be dicks.
Well, because people still have to pay for them. You're right. Why do you give a shit if the
Okay.
pizza's?
No, I get what you're saying. So, like,
Uh,
yeah, because I don't think they were sending. I didn't know if they were. Yeah, I guess now that I think about it, for
I mean, because you can pay at the door, right?
then I would assume yes. I would assume yes, there is something like that.
Some anti-abuse system.
But
Hmm.
again, I think it would be, or not again, but I think it would be something like, I think it would have to be individual. So like Domino's has one, Papa John's has one, Pizza Hut has one.
I know. I'm just saying they could go up the next level. Maybe this
No,
is
they should. They should form a cabal.
pizza cabal.
Pizza,
Yeah.
CIA.
Okay. Here's a real question, not an asinine pizza question. Do you still do theater? Would you do theater again? In what capacity?
No, I don't want to. I don't.
Why is that?
I just don't want to. Like I
Okay.
hate that my answers are so simple.
No, I love it. I asked. If you're gonna be a guest on the show, by the way, this is the secret. Because I really try and probe the psychology here a little bit. And
Oh, that's some good
the
probe.
way to defeat me, Catherine D did this the other day, is I asked her, like, why do you do this? Why do you write about creepy internet subcultures? And she said, I like it. That's it. You win. We can move on. So yeah, you just don't want to. That's fair.
Yeah, it's lost. I'm
Yeah.
just not interesting. The end. That's
And
all.
in some way we are, I mean, unconscious beings in a way driven by feelings outside our logic,
Sure,
cognition.
sure. I don't know.
Um, would you do film?
Yes, yes.
Do you do film?
Not really. Um, I've been starting to write screenplays again. Because up where I live, or where I live, um, they started a film commission and everything like that, and so they're starting to rally people to get people to film in this area where there hasn't been a lot of film in a long time. So I might ride some of the coattails of that a little bit. We'll see what actually happens, but yes, I would do film again. I would want to not be a key grip though.
Is that what you were?
Yeah, it's a fun job.
Hey, the one time I had you on, you were speaking principal role.
Yeah, that's true. That's
Yeah.
true.
I don't think we paid you. We might have given you a sandwich, but
No,
it was a pleasure to have you on. Yeah. I
I
want
get
to ask now. This is sort of a stereotypical Futurist Letters show question. Um, I think that Lillian was accusing us of just examining her blood quanta on the show, which is not exactly true. But you're by ancestry, you have a sort of a mixed ancestry, right?
yeah. I'm a
Yeah.
I'm a Indian, American Indian, and Irish, and there might be a little German in there somewhere too.
Okay.
I'm
Um,
I'm not Korean or yeah, I don't know. I don't remember what Lillian
Korean,
was.
Jewish and Korean. Yeah.
I'm neither Jewish nor Korean.
Okay. All right.
Although
Well, that's
US
best. We've
kind
got to keep some diversity in the world.
that's that's
Do
right.
you
Are you just
touching on
saying this
film
to
just
spare
because
you
this is
from
something I operate in? Do you feel any kind of a pull to play on your ancestry to get opportunities in the film business?
no. Um
No. Do
I
you
like
feel any emotion at all about the concept of doing that?
yes. I think maybe not, but I do have a thought. Um I think heritage, and again, this is risky coming from a guy who looks like me, despite the fact of what I am. Um, heritage at a certain point, um, is not so sacred as to not use it to your advantage. If that makes any sense at all. So, and maybe that's me attempting to be very neutral on that. Um, because so like for me personally, I mean, I've got my kachinas on the desk, and I've got my books and things like that, and I've got heirlooms and stuff from the Pueblo side of my family. Um, but for me personally, to use that to get ahead, say there's a there's a program or whatever that
Yeah.
will where I can leverage my heritage to um you know to be put in front of some line or something like that. I would personally take issue with that for a multitude of reasons. The primary one being that I don't look like an Indian. I just don't. I don't look like I should even be calling Indians Indians. so so for me, that would socially feel like not not a good thing to do. Um for an individual who is willing to, who maybe looks more Native American than I do, who would be willing to, sacrifice their heritage for an opportunity. I think that's the American dream. Um, and I don't know if that's good or bad. My impulse is to say that's probably bad. Um, that's probably bad. Uh, if heritage is a very, very valuable thing, which
When you say sacrifice, what do you mean?
ex,
Like,
ex,
in what way are you sacrificing your heritage when you apply for, say, a specific grant or something like that?
so okay, so I guess like I'm thinking of it a few different ways. I think I'm thinking of it from, maybe I'm interpreting it as more of like a cultural perspective. So like there's a lot of discourse about what what authors are being hired in at the Big Five or whatever. And I
Yeah.
think most of the time, I think the numbers suggest that it's mostly women, and that's partly because of the demographic that tends to read more fiction tends to be women, of a specific economic and political status as well. So, if I am a woman who wrote a book, and there's a dozen men in front of me, but that publisher is tends to focus on books that are geared towards um uh middle class liberal women, and I have a book that that echoes that to an extent. um I do think there is a degree of self exploitation. And I don't know that this is universal. I think this is maybe just how I think about it. I think there's a degree of self exploitation that allows you to step in front of that line. Now, I don't think that's the same if, like, there is a grant that exists, um, that a certain number of women can apply for, that allows them to, um, you know, take $50 off of their college courses or something. Um, I don't think that's necessarily the same sort of self exploitation. I think that's just, you know, taking taking advantage of the cultural climate. Um, but I don't know what makes those two things different. If that makes
I'll throw two things out there along these lines because I think you and I similarly facing this position, both being artists, both being similar age, being mixed, being male, being obstinate, and at the bottom of it all, having some commitment to what we feel is right. I'll say there are two ways that this rubs me wrong. One is, and this is not a popular position to have online. It makes you really come off quite dweeby, but I really do. I ate up all the melting pot civic soup that they gave us in school in the 90s and the 2000s. I mean, in the idea of moving toward not a post-racial, but an America where race is not the highest level of social organization. You
yes.
know? Um, especially for me not fitting cleanly in. I mean, it gives me a sort of peace to not think about my race, and that's one reason I'm so resentful about what happened from 2017 to 24, where all of a sudden it was prison rules, and really your race was who you roll with. I mean, this was just exhausting to me. But I will say in two ways, this rubs me the wrong way. One, I mean, so my dad is English and Welsh and such things. And he's remarried, and I have a stepmother. And I love my stepmother. She's Irish predominantly. And I had this moment, and I carried it with me inside because I was so scared. This sounds so melodramatic, but really, I really was scared to express these things for a few years there, where I just imagined having a half sibling
Mm.
who, by my dad and my stepmom. Um, and I was applying to these grants, Universal Minority Writers Group, um, Warner Brothers, Disney Writers Group, whatever, putting my full heart into these things. And I was just thinking, this theoretical half sibling of mine would not be let in the door
Mm.
because of their their genes. This bothers me. This bothers me, and it feels like it'll taint the feeling if I get in. Not that I did get in, partially because number two, what they ultimately want you to do is a lot more insidious than just talk about your ancestry. They
Mm.
really want you to, speaking in generalities, almost like minstrelize yourself.
Yes, I agree with that.
Because you're not just writing. Here's the thing. Here's the insidious thing. Okay, upper middle class white women read. Yes, this is true. They read Gillian Flynn. Gillian Flynn writes a Gone Girl, Sharp Objects. People read it. Gillian Flynn is a genius, by the way. She's a great author. I love Gillian Flynn. Here's the thing. If you are, applying to the diversity program as Slater, the native, they one, they don't want you writing what you want to write. Two, they don't even want you writing Gillian Flynn. They want you writing um like an Indian flavored story
Yes.
for people who like Gillian Flynn. And it just sickens me. That's not who I want to be in 2 degrees. So that's kind of where I come into all this. And I don't know.
I
It
I
would be
like
easy to say that I don't hold it against people who take advantage of that. I kind of do. I kind of do. Uh, whatever.
so okay, I
We'll also see. We'll see. I think all that stuff is now um hiding in fear of whatever this new regime is.
yeah, no. It,
So
so to
yeah,
your
that's
point,
my rant.
I think the flaw in the first point, if it can be a flaw at all, but if I was arguing against it, I could just as easily say, well, your half brother has other opportunities that are arguably more plenteous.
Sure,
So
I guess, and that's how the Supreme Court justified affirmative action.
yes,
So they
yes,
said this is compensatory.
and that's the thing is
It's like a crutch.
I do think something like that can exist without being frustrating or bothersome.
I do too.
And I want that to exist. The problem is that as these programs exist now, and then again, this is mostly to your first point. Um, as they exist now, they are effective. They are positive to an extent, and and their perception cannot be fixed. Like how they are perceived. Like I don't think there's any sort of PR that can fix the areas where they aren't so successful or where they are maybe not as good. But that's my response to your first idea. The second one
And I
was
have a rebuttal, but I'll wait.
no, I'm gonna forget. I'm sorry. I'm gonna
You're
for-
gonna forget your second point? No, go ahead, and then I'll remember.
um, your second point was uh
My
uh
second point was that they want you to do a cartoon of your
yes,
heritage.
it is 100% that. So like one of the things that um like if you look at guys like Tommy Orange or Sherman Alexie or oh God, what is his name? My Heart is a Chainsaw. He's a great writer. I actually do really like his work. Stephen Graham Jones. Um, those guys are all American Indian authors. The only one that I've ever even heard of, like leaning into the the so I've got this great photo of my great grandfather, and I'm bringing it back to this initial idea. Uh, he went to the Carlisle schools, so he was taken from his pueblo and brought to a re-education school to to whiten him up. And there's these great set of photos that were in the newspaper in his area. One is him dressed like in the headdress and the all the garb and everything like that. And I don't even think it was, yeah, I don't even think it was Pueblo stuff. I think it was like Sioux or something like that, Oglala Sioux. Um, and then the next photo is him in like a suit and tie, just looking like guy number three. Um,
Yeah.
and so this maybe leans back into the my concern about like, not my concern, but my thoughts on like, is heritage valuable? Um, there is a sort of, and again, I think this is maybe the American dream to an extent. Like the reason that we still have the Fight in Irish um, little caricature is, I think, because people are meant to, and I'm not saying that this works. I'm just saying what I think it's supposed to be.
I'm
Uh,
realizing you're actually a pretty high percentage of mascots
I am.
across your ethnicity. Yeah.
I, yeah, my brother, who he's darker than I am, and he looks more the part. He has a Chief Wahoo somewhere in his car,
Mm.
like a metal pin or something like that.
I think it confuses and disturbs people, especially said tote bag people, um, the way American Indians sort of interact with these things as they become like social justice flashpoints. I
Yeah,
see a lot of people sort of just like not have any theory of mind for someone who is native.
no, it's and that is true too. So like, if you bringing it back to like Stephen Graham Jones and
Yeah.
Sherman Alexie and those guys, um, they lean into their culture and to the extent that into their individual tribes and such like that, to the extent that like they do write art or they do write stories about American Indian culture and such like that. But um, but it doesn't feel like they're exploiting it. Like one of the books, I think The Only Good Indian by Stephen Graham Jones. Um, he doesn't have a his characters aren't, and this leans into the question of like whether or not a Mary Sue type of archetype is valid or whatever. But all the characters, even they're morally gray. All of the American Indian characters in that story are morally gray or bad. And there's other, morally gray characters as well, but that are white or whatever. But he he's telling the story through the culture because there's an interesting story to be told within it, not because he wants to, teach some sort of lesson about, being good. But then that goes back to the question of like didactic fiction, which again goes back to the minstrel show aspect, which yes, they want it is kind of mandatory that you play a character of yourself, or of a caricature of your heritage. Um, which
And that's like the worst faith reading. There are definitely better faith readings of what they want. I don't know.
so that is my interpretation of some better intention of whatever is trying to be done. So I do think like, and I do genuinely think that um uh there's good intention. There is genuinely good intention behind, the this sort of thing. This sort of
And I want to say this to that point. And this is the first time I haven't put this in an essay, but I think it's worth saying. And if you've listened to an hour, 50 minutes of this, sure, go ahead and take it. Basically what I want to say is this. Yes, okay, so you choose, someone just had a good post on Substack today about like the religious element of liberal ideals, in terms of like basically in lieu of a kingdom of God in heaven, trying to create a more perfect human existence on earth, one with less suffering, one that is, and we choose attributes to aim toward directionally through progress. That's progressivism, progressing toward our best attempt at what we want to live in as utopia on earth. Right. And one of these things is like lowered inequality in these ways that represent these historic injustices that grieve us. So, okay, then you create compensatory institutions, programs, affirmative action, whatever. It's funny to be talking about this in the context of American Indians because it's probably the most extreme example of a wrong being done by America, such that what you might call reparations or something like that, which are already in some ways done, um, are the most justified. But I will say this: the mainstreaming of these sort of racial tracks, where it's like, hey, we're gonna start taking BIPOC submissions a week early. Hey, we are opening 5 more spots in this computer science program for, whatever BIPOC applicants. Especially this idea of people of color or BIPOC, where it's not positively targeted at one group. It's actually basically just everyone with the exclusion of one privilege group. Wah, wah. Be that white or cis or male or what have you, whatever. When the term is basically welcoming everybody except for the one group, privileged group, even if it is effective, even if it does reduce inequality, even if this program does move us toward that more perfect environment of progressivism on Earth, it generates, speaking of negative valence, I think it drives privileged people insane, especially children and teenagers who don't understand what they did wrong and have very, very vulnerable self-esteem. I mean, I run into a lot, and this is kind of where I lose the Nazis. Because when you go, oh, I don't like these diversity programs, like, they're like, yeah, hell yeah, brother. And then you go, oh, because they create white identitarianism, which is even more evil. Then they're like, hey, man, whatever. But it's like, no, like that's my problem ultimately
No,
is
I agree with that.
like these programs, especially the whole concept of BIPOC, you're basically creating white nationalism in the negative space of what you're doing rhetorically. That's my issue. And for that, I say these things overall do more harm than good.
I see that. I definitely see that. It's and I think the response to that would be like, well, that's it's something along the lines of it's not my job to educate you to not be a white nationalist.
Yeah, I remember people saying it's not my job to educate you, and then we got
And then you got people who educate.
this election,
No,
so
you got Nazis.
clear maybe it should have been your job a little bit to educate people if you didn't want to lose
And I
that.
do agree with that. There was oh gosh, I cannot remember his name, but there was a Marxist revolutionary. I want to say
Leonardo DiCaprio.
you got it. That's the one.
Yeah. Have you seen it, by the way?
No, I haven't seen it.
All right, I'm curious to hear your take.
It's Leonardo DiCaprio's character from the Congo is what I was kind of curious about. No, um, but I cannot remember his name. But one of the points that he made that I thought that I really I think everyone can take to heart is effectively that it's exactly that. If it's not your job to educate, then the people will educate themselves to reject you effectively. And and that doesn't do any good in the long run for anybody. But I mean, I think that um yeah, no, I agree. I think that the reason that we have more Illinois Nazis, or it seems like maybe they're more vocal, I don't know. um
We have more.
yeah,
I
okay.
think if I were 10 years younger, I wouldn't know, but I'm old enough to remember what the internet was like 10 years ago, and um I know there were fewer because they had to use edgelording as a cover,
Yes,
even among the right libertarians,
yeah, yeah, yeah.
because actually saying something like Hitler did nothing wrong even a rightist would find that repulsive. And now they don't have to pretend it's edgelording anymore.
Absolutely. No, no, no. I absolutely. I think that's a really, really good point. Yeah, now well, and now that's the thing too, is like those phrases are they're losing their they've lost their comedy because they've become serious. Like that's a hilarious thing to say. Um
Yeah.
and not believe, right? Um but
I
if you
mean, yeah, I think I just spent about 200 pages using Nazis as a punchline, so we're we're kind of laughing through it. Specifically, like San Francisco Nazis,
Ah, I don't know
gay Nazis.
they got gay Nazis?
They do, yeah, they do. And you know something? I saved this gay Nazi flyer from San Francisco in my camera roll because I knew I would want to look at it later. And when I searched it with Gemini, it said, "Oh, I can't show you that. I
No,
can't. That's my camera roll, you stupid robot.
show me what I'm showing you.
Just show me what's already in, whatever." And that's its own separate
It's like
thing.
handing someone your phone and then having them take it away from you.
Yeah, yeah, you can't look at this. It's my photo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, that's like there was one thing on the internet that I remember finding greatly amusing. Again, assuming that there was no reality to it, but it was like a Confederate flag with with like a swastika in the middle, with the pride flag, with uh like that was then sort of framed by a sickle and a hammer, and it was like they just tried to get everything in all at once, and it made me very happy. I thought it was amusing. Um, but obviously then there's the way to interpret that, which is like, oh, are you trying to say all these movements are the same? And then no, I think it's just a silly image. But anyway.
I think that if I were to do an artistic analysis, I would say that it is suggesting political identity groups have similar social functions for the participants, regardless of the contents of the ideology.
Sure.
In
And
that, like a Discord for any one of those groups is going to look structurally somewhat isomorphic, regardless of what they're talking about. But maybe
no,
not.
I never thought to read that far into it because it just made me giggle, and then I moved on. But I mean,
Well, what
yeah,
did you like about it, Slater?
what'd you say?
What did you like about it?
It made I just liked it.
I'm imagining us like at the museum of like brain rot art in like looking at this framed on the wall.
I think so. At the time when that appeared, I think I saw it and it took me off guard, and I think that alone gave me a chuckle. And I think for that reason it is just branded in my brain. But yes, okay. So if we were to analyze it, I think I agree with that to some extent. Um, I don't know that it was something meant to be analyzed. I think it was just something that was made to be rage bait to an extent.
There you go. And that's
Or
honestly made to be rage bait is a valid reading.
I agree,
You know,
and
this is supposed to
I
piss
agree for
people
myself.
off. That's the intention of the author. There you go.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, but then again, the intention of the author isn't necessarily all that matters, or it's actually matters least, frankly.
Maybe it's somewhere in the middle. I don't know. Yeah. I guess it depends object to object. Look, we've been going a while. I don't know if you've got somewhere else to be. I'm sorry. I think I just got a little carried away, but
Uh, at this point, this is just us hanging
I
out.
think we're just shooting the shit if we're this deep. Yeah. I want to circle back for a close up. Um, this is what I want to ask. Um, I don't want to ask where you hope to go because that's very boring artistically. But I guess I will ask one, what is most interesting to you right now artistically? What is lighting that fire in you?
Like from myself or like
Yeah.
um.
What gets you banging Keeb?
So right now, I am admittedly in a little bit of a slump. I did just complete a couple stories that were more or less rehashings of old ideas that I had. But I do have this idea. And frankly, Cairo, it's partly inspired by Scene Bucks.
Scene bucks. Okay.
Um, of a guy who, and I don't, see this. I'm not sure I want to talk about it because I
All right, no, I know what that's like.
don't know where to.
Whenever I have that feeling, I just need to stop.
Mm, yeah.
But the
Anyway,
point is, I've inspired you. I'm great. You love
yes.
my work. Got it.
You
Print it.
should go buy scene books. I gotta say, there's every now and again I will go to my local bar. I will sit down and I will read, and I will just be laughing at the bar like an insane person until I have to go. And
Oh,
also
good.
there are actually times I can't read it. Again, I'm the world's slowest reader, so I think about halfway through. But there are times where it feels so claustrophobic that I do have to put it down for a second. Like especially
The
if I'm in a
headspace
car.
of the protagonist? Or the
Yeah.
prose style, or what?
So a lot of it is the situations the protagonist is in, and paired with you have this very very for this book. I actually haven't seen this in any of your other writing. Well,
This is definitely the odd one out of my books
it is,
so
and
far.
I love it. It's very it's like it's minimalist prose, but like maximalist affectation. I don't know. I don't really know what the word is that I'm looking for.
I
Um,
said I said to some Evan at my publishing house after he had read it, he was trying to find the words to describe it, and I said, "Yeah, I wanted to write something that would be interesting for people with ADD."
yeah, yeah, that's a pretty
And
accurate.
he sort of chuckled and he said, "Sure, that comes off."
No, I definitely get that. That's the new genre that emerges.
Yeah. It's the brain rot book. I think someone called it brain rot satire in a review. I don't read these, by the way. I avoid them.
I think I read that review, and I think that's pretty accurate. It is
Uh-huh.
about satire.
So tell me though, maybe I don't want to know, maybe I do. Are they saying it is satire that is brain rot or satire of brain rot or both?
Um, so from the review that I read, it was pretty much all praise. Um, I think if okay, so if I were to, if I were to say this because I don't remember the context of
Okay, fair.
reading it the first time, but brain rot satire would be, I think that would mean satire of brain rot. Um,
Sure.
if I were to say that, I would say it contains both. But again,
And I totally derailed you from saying I wanted to hear about claustrophobic.
no, but I wanted to tell you about your book, or I wanted to tell you about that specifically. So claustrophobic. A lot of it is the pacing because it's the book's breakneck pace, and I love that honestly. Um, and he just finds himself in these situations that I'm not gonna say I found myself in specifically, but um, like I said, it feels a little bit of like a memoir of my life at 18 to an extent, to an extent.
Uh-huh.
But
Well, that's good.
it's a
That feels
pacing in situations because like he's in a lot of really lousy situations incredibly fast, and not even lousy situations, just like very very uncomfortable. Like this could go very very bad very very quickly types of situations, which is always fun. It's tense.
which
It's
means
tense.
read the book. Go buy Scene Bucks.
You should go
And
by
buy Becoming when it comes out. When does it come out?
mid October at some point. I mean,
Mid-October.
I don't have
Okay,
to.
well, it might be out anytime around whenever this comes out. So go look for it. Becoming by what is the name you're writing under for this?
Under Slater Henatay. So it is my first name, which is Slater, and my father's Indian name, which was Henatay, which means stormcloud.
Hanete.
Henatay.
All right. This is important because people need to be able to look you up and buy your book. Why
That's
did you choose to write under this name? I mean, I imagine it's some homage to your father.
it's yeah, it's more it's also that so to get corny with it, my great grandfather Garcia is that's my father's side, and then also on my father's side is my middle name, which is Ross. Um, and both of those are uh, names that were given to us by colonizers. So
Yeah.
I do not feel particularly colonized at this point. That being said, my great grandfather used to refer to Garcia and Ross as slave names. So I just took my dad's Indian name and said that's my last name now.
Do you think you'll do that in life too?
At some point, yeah.
Okay.
So my wife and I are married. We did a courthouse marriage, and we both kept our last names. We were gonna change our last names when we actually did a wedding ceremony, which we will do at some point. So we'll probably do it then.
Yeah, I hear it's a pain to do that paperwork, but just
Little
do it once, then you're set for life.
exactly.
Yeah. All
And
right. Well,
I mean,
very interesting. Do check out Becoming. Do check out Simpulacra on Substack. That is Simp with a P. And he is cutting. He is incisive. He is prolific. He is at times disturbing. What else can we ask for? And we are very happy to have him on the show. So Slater, thank you for coming on.
thanks for having
And I think we are all looking forward to seeing what comes next. For you, this has now been the longest episode to date of the Futurist Letters show. So thank you everybody for tuning in for the duration, whatever you were doing to busy yourself. I hope that this made it a little lighter, a little more fun. And Slater, I think it's a testament to everything going on in you and at least my interest in it that this ran as long as it did. So thank you, and we will see you around the internet. Now, if you want to sponsor the show, this is where your sponsor message will go. And since it's just me, we are not going to do an after show, but please stick around and remember, we are reading the book Accelerando by Charles Stross very soon here. So pick that up, find a PDF, read the book, read it on Kindle. Accelerando, Kenny and I are going to be discussing it, and it's going to be a great time. So until next time, we will see you around the internet. Bye, folks.